Okay. Can you hit the bar for me? The blue bar. You are funny. Is it yeah. Good evening and welcome to our January discussion with doing our community health seminar series. Tonight we'll be discussing welcoming womanhood. We want to give an opportunity for those who are present to begin to discuss some of the challenges and some of the exciting opportunities we have to grow in our relationships with one another, learn to address the needs of the fairer sex, which are our women, but more importantly, learn to listen to them, learn to pay attention to them, as well as those statements that they make that aren't always easily understood. My prayer for us is that we can look at each other, look at our relationships with one another, and become honest as we begin to grow toward that which God has called us to do. So we're going to begin with prayer as we usually do. Gracious God, we love you. We thank you, God, for all that you've done. God, we pray that you superintend over this time. We pray, God, that it be used for your glory. We thank you, God, for your love and your grace. And I pray that something be said that can be a blessing to someone tonight. I thank you for the privileged opportunity to speak to your people. And my prayer is that through this discussion, we can develop strategies to hear one another, and more importantly, develop strategies to serve the women who are in our life. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. The purpose, we're trying to discover a cure. And the cure looks like this. We want to celebrate the sacred calling of womanhood. We want to uncover her repressed emotional obstructions. We want to remove cultural judgment and stigma from her emotions, encourage exploration and discovery of her personal identity development, of her plan alignment. We'll talk a lot about what's her plan. Her purposeful growth strategies. How does she plan to grow? What is important for her in her growth? And her pursuit of her life passions. Our goal is to help to cure, not her, but actually cure the family that surrounds her. So that we can learn to encourage her, support her, as she develops into the woman that she has been called to be. That leads me to the real goal. The real goal of this discussion is actually not for the women who are here. The real goal of the discussion is actually, although she is the focus, the real goal of the discussion is to help men and children learn how to care. The only way we can cure ourselves is to care for her. And how can we care? We can care through considering our wives and mothers, their desires and dreams. I wonder when the last time we asked the women in our life, what are your innermost desires and what are your dreams? We can learn to appreciate our wives and our mothers through in her sacrifices. It's important for us to understand the sacrifices that she makes just to ensure that we all are okay. We can remember to celebrate our wives and mothers for their achievements. Their achievements are important. Their achievements matter. And because their achievements are so pivotal to the movement of the family, we need to learn how to give them pats on the back for all that they do. We also need to learn to encourage our wives and mothers. And check this out. Their expansion and exploration of her unique discovery of womanhood. Because we think she is so proficient. She is so on top of things. She is so organized. We think that everything is okay and that she's got it all together. But I've talked to enough women to know that there are many concerns that they have concerning their life and the challenges that they have in their life. And they realize that their growth and expansion toward becoming the woman they want to be is not complete. Many times we don't take that in consideration. So my prayer is that we can encourage them as they grow into the woman they are called to be. But I got to tell you all first things first. This is a very important first things first. Doc Jackson knows nothing about women. Nothing. The only thing I know about women is what they tell me. My responsibility is to learn how to listen and hear what they tell me. Fellas, we got to do a better job at pausing to listen to what she's saying. Why is this important? It's important that we listen because the fact is the solutions we discuss will come from them. The way we are to care for them is based upon what they tell us care means to them. But if we don't pay attention to them, if we don't listen, if we act as though we know better what they need, then they will never be satisfied with our attempts to please them. Truth is, many of us men and the children who attempt to support their mothers, many of the times we put forth our best effort to try to satisfy the woman of the house. But what we grow to realize is that sometimes with all our effort, she doesn't necessarily feel satisfied by that which we do. And we ask ourselves, what's wrong? What's the problem? Why isn't she pleased with my efforts? I wonder how often we stop and ask ourselves, did I really take the time to ask her what she wanted? Or did I do something, no matter how grandiose it could have been, that I thought she would love? When in all honesty, all she would have needed was a thank you or a flower. But you went out and bought her a whole garden of flowers that she doesn't even like. We've got to learn how to ask the question. It's important for us to learn how to struggle with their identity, their struggle of identity. We need to learn how to suffer with them as they approach the burden of having to be everything to everybody. And we need to help them seek a safe place or space to discover who they want to be. Take my word for it. If you try to make her what you want her to be, you will forever create frustration in her. It's important that we learn that we help her become who she wants to be. and let her drive the bus getting there. You know, we as men, we like to drive the car. We like to take the keys, and we can go as fast as we want, we can go as slow as we want, we can go any direction we want. But that shouldn't be our posture when it comes down to our women becoming who they want to be. We should freely give up the keys, sit in the passenger seat, and maybe every now and then just ask her, where are we going? And let her explain what the trip's going to look like. Truthfully, many men and children selfishly disregard the personal struggles experienced by the women in our life. We don't listen. Who do you turn to when the only people in the world that can stop you from crying are exactly the ones making you cry? I believe that's the question many women ask. Who can I go to? Who can I speak with? When the people I want to talk to, the people I expect to listen to me, pay me no mind. So therefore she becomes insulated, isolated. And she begins not to really speak about the pain that she's experiencing. So, brothers, we got to stop talking so much. We've got to learn how to be quiet. Because when you're quiet, you get the opportunity to what? Listen and hear her mind, hear her thoughts, hear her dreams. The most amazing ministry we can provide for each other as well as other people is the ministry of presence. We've got to learn how to be present. Being present means sometimes you don't open your mouth. There's a great story that I want to talk to you all about. It's in Job, the 2nd chapter. You all know the story of Job. Job was a man who was righteous and faithful toward God. But Job lost everything. He lost his wealth. He lost his family. He lost his health. He lost his servants. He lost his stature in the community. Job was attacked physically by the devil, given permission by God. And Job was despondent as his life was unraveling. Text says in Job 2nd chapter, verses 11 through 13, now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this adversity that had come upon him, each one came from his own place. Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come and mourn with him and to comfort him. Shouldn't that be what we do when friends are going through hardships? Shouldn't we go make an appointment, which means prioritize your time to be with them and support them so that they don't have to mourn alone? These 3 friends, they came to be with Job. They came to mourn with him. And they came to comfort him. Verse 12 is an amazing verse because then it gives the kind of environment that was set when they initially came to spend time with Job. Text says, and when they raised their eyes from afar and did not recognize him, he was that bad off, his health had been squandered, his life was in ruins, so bad off that his friends didn't even recognize him. I don't know if y'all ever been there before, but my prayer is that we can learn to open our eyes so we can see the condition that those people who we're supposed to be close to are in. I'm specifically talking to men and children, how often do you look at the woman in the house to actually see her condition? It requires that we learn to open our eyes so that we can see her for who she is. But check out what Job's friends did when they recognized that he wasn't himself. They lifted their voices and wept. They cried for Job. Isn't that amazing? They felt his pain. They were there with him. And each one tore his robe and sprinkled dust on his head toward heaven. That is a Hebrew sign of mourning. They were mourning with Job, saying, Job, we understand, we get it. We share your perspective and we share your condition. Verse 13 says, so they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his grief was so great. They were present. But guess what? Just because you're there doesn't mean you need to open your mouth and say a word. Sometimes just being there is enough. Lord, if we can learn just how to be there for somebody. Share in their mourning, share in their grief, but also learn that sometimes words are best when they go unspoken. Sometimes just being with somebody is enough. Beyonce said, listening now may prevent this request later. Now, what's that request? Does this look familiar to anyone? Got a hint for you. What's the name of the movie? Get Out. If you learn how to listen to her now, just be present. The request may not come for her one day that you got to go. Because your presence is an obstruction to her getting better. You get in the way, you're disturbing her peace. All you do is ask, ask, ask. You never listen. You're never supportive. You're never present. My prayer for us is that none of us ever hear those dreaded words, get out. Because we've learned to listen and we've learned to be present. So, ladies, tonight we promise, the fellas and the children promise, we're going to listen and we're going to learn. We're going to observe and we're going to obsecrate. Obsecrate just means pray. We're going to value you and be vulnerable also to you and your vulnerabilities. We're going to connect with you. We want to empower and have an experience with you. Why? Because we love you. And because we love you, we want to encourage and support you to become the woman you want to be. So, I'm going to talk to my brothers just a little while longer. Brothers, is the significant woman in your life your wife or your woman? When I ask the children, is the significant woman in your life your womb or not your woman, your mother? The woman that takes care of you. The woman that provides for you. Brothers and children, you all may ask, what's the difference? What's the difference, husbands, between wife and womb? Or wife and woman? And children may ask, what's the difference between womb and woman? Don't women have wombs? Women are the only ones who can have children. And women, contrary to popular belief, are the only ones who can be wives. Is that all we do is see our women or the women in our life based upon the role of wife or the role of womb, the role of mother? Well, if you ask the question, then that's why we're here. We're here to actually discuss the distinctions between woman, wife, and womb. Women have helped me better understand that the roles she played in the family do not communicate the fullness or the nuance of her identity. We're going to talk a little bit about the distinctions between roles and identity. It's important that we do this groundwork before we do the exercises that we'll do later on. Roles versus identity. Roles in the family are the recurrent patterns of behavior by which individuals fulfill family functions and needs in the family. Individual members of families occupy certain roles such as offspring. Offspring are who? Their children, their brothers and sisters, their grandchild. The other roles that are in the family, parents. That's a father, a mother, or a grandparent. And then we have extended family. That's the aunts, the aunties, and the uncles, and the nephews and the nieces. All those are roles within families. We can associate them with titles. A wife is a title. A mother is a title. A father is a title. Those titles are associated with roles. We're going to talk to you a little bit about why that's important. But let's talk about identity. Family identity is a central expression of developed values expressed and experienced as a collective. As such, it can be a positive tool in communicating, structuring life plans, and parenting when approached with purpose through shared lived experiences. What does that just mean? That just means that every family develops some form of identity. The family has a central expression, a central lived experience. What does this look like? Well, there is some expressions in my household that's different than expressions in other people's household. In my household, I've developed an identity with my children. I use one word to call them. And when I use this word, all of them come. I just say, Jacksons. And all of them come. Therefore, I don't have to try to remember their names. I don't have to say, Kiera, Caleb, Kirsten, Kendall, Stephanie. I don't have to do all that. One word describes an identity for our family. And that one word in our family means, come see what's wrong. That's our family morals, or moray. Each family has its own expression that outlines their lived experience. There are 6 functions in the family. The first function of the family is add additional members to the family. The function is that husband and wife come together and make babies. They make babies either through birth or they adopt. Second function of the family, physical care of members. This physical care comes through the address of social welfare and people's well-being. Socialization of children. This is a biggie. Kids learn how to communicate and how to speak. They learn their language from their family of origin. That's why children who grew up in Italy, they speak Italian. Why? Because the family speaks Italian. Children who grow up in Spain, they speak Spanish. In China, they either speak Mandarin or some form of Cantonese. When they grow up in Russia, they speak Russian. When they grow up in America, they speak English. This socialized experience allows them to learn their language, helps educate them, gives them cultural activities. Religious and spiritual development take place in the family. They learn about who God is, and they learn about how important God is in the family. Fourth function of the family, social control of members. And what does this mean? We teach discipline. We teach ethics and morality in the context of the family. When does this begin? This begins from the first time the child comes through the door as an infant. They begin to learn social norms in the family. The fifth family function, effective nurturance. And what's that? Developing a support system for each person in the family. Developing determination and self-assurance of the members in the family. And the sixth, producing diligent, contributing members of society. This is probably my favorite. Why? Because in the family, children are encouraged to learn to be a contribution to the world and not to just take from the world. They learn industry and how to work for the promotion of a healthy society. The family is important and significant, and the functions of the family are just as important and significant. There are 6 family structures that we've come to know. The first family structure is the nuclear family. Nuclear family is a traditional family with mom, dad, 2.5 children, with a white picket fence in the house. Y'all know most often that ain't how things work out. However, that is what we call a nuclear family. Statistics say 70% of children in America are growing up in a nuclear family. 70%. Single parent family speaks for itself. Single parent family is where one person is raising one or more children and they're doing it on their own. Third, we have the extended family. The extended family is a family where 2 or more relatives live together, and they live together for what? To collaborate and address the goals and needs of everyone. Sometimes they come together to raise kids together. They come together to partner to address financial issues or home life issues. That is the extended family. Childless family. The childless family is often thought of or called the forgotten family. Because many people think you need children to have a family, when that's not true. There are times when a husband and a wife come together and either through infertility or choice, they have no children. But they're still a family. Step family. Step families becoming very, very popular now. We call step families also blended families. This is when couples who marry after a previous marriage or previous engagement, they come together and they begin to blend. Last but not least, we have grandparent families, where grandparents have the responsibility of raising children, most often for their children. That's becoming very prevalent in today's society. Let's talk about identity. Identity is the qualities, beliefs, personality, looks, and or expressions that make a person. An identity can be mental, it can be physical, or emotional. But the development of this identity is a very personal thing. A psychological identity relates to self-image, how we see ourselves, self-esteem, and individuality. But what happens when your identity, that is supposed to be a very personal, very individual thing, because identity allows us to answer the question, who am I? What happens when you are in pursuit or in search of your identity and everybody around you wants to tell you who you are? That doesn't seem individual, does it? That doesn't seem personal, does it? Well, gender identity actually is something that has become very crucial in understanding who we are and how we develop. Societal members decide what being male or female or husband and wife is, what it really means. Who's going to be dominant and who's going to be passive? Who's going to be considered brave and who's going to be considered emotional? Males, husbands, generally respond by what? Being defined as masculine. So therefore, when we see a woman who may be masculine, we say she may have a problem with her identity. Well, if a woman is masculine, does that mean she has a problem with her identity? No. Why? Because identity is an individual choice. Whereas females, wives, generally define themselves as being what? Feminine. Well, what if we find a dude who may be a little effeminate? Should we automatically go and say that person is a homosexual because they may be a little effeminate? No. That may be their lived experience in their personality. And what we got to do is we got to learn how not to judge individuals based upon our societal norms or what our perspective of society says. We got to give people some slack. Gender roles. Gender roles can be defined as the behaviors, values, and attitudes that a society considers appropriate for both males and females. So, gender roles, that's when we begin to tell what a person's supposed to do. I kind of love this. Traditionally, in gender roles, men and women had completely opposing roles in the families, where men were seen as the provider for the family and women were seen as the caretakers of the home and family. Whenever I see data like this, I realize that the person who wrote it doesn't live in the DMV. Because if they lived in the DMV, what they would be heavily exposed to is women who are the provider, the caretaker, the everything to families. They go out and they make the money. They go out and go get the groceries. They come home and they cook them. They get the homework done before the kids go to bed. They make sure the kids get their showers. Make sure the kids say their prayers. Put the kids in the bed. And then they get a chance to do the other work they have to do. Wash clothes. Clean the house. Make sure the bills are paid. That's the expression of the life that's lived, the roles that are lived in most of the women in the DMV that I know. But sometimes we men, we hold on to antiquated views of these gender roles. In the 17th century, men were expected to go out and make the money. Whereas women, from adolescence, they were taught how to take care of the home, how to take care of the children. But they weren't expected to go out and work. My, how things have changed. Gender roles. What's important for us to understand, which is, I think, something that women want us men and the children who they birth to understand. It's important to know that gender roles are task-oriented. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm glad you asked. In this diagram or this picture, it says women preparing food, cleaning. Women in traditional roles, in traditional Roman communities, will do fortune telling and begging. That's one of the roles that they have. While men produce tools, they sell things, they make copperware, they go out of the home. Both men and women take care of the children. That's how things are done in this European culture. However, the reality is, in the culture we live in, who's doing all this? The women are doing all this. And I know, ladies, that sometimes you don't always feel treasured and appreciated for all that you do. But our goal is to celebrate you tonight and let you know that we see what you're doing and we appreciate you for doing it. What is this task-oriented thing? Task orientation focuses on getting the necessary task or series of tasks under control to achieve what? A goal. Task-oriented leaders, they really aren't focused on the people who are doing the work. They're just worried about what? Getting the work done. But what happens if the person in the house who is asserting the task ain't putting no money on getting the task done? They got all the bark in the world about what needs to be done, but won't work, won't cook, won't clean, won't take care of children, won't put any money down to purchase. And when you go to dinner, you get there and the check comes and his task is pay the bill. But Lisa says your response to him should be bye, 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 bye. Is that right, Lisa?
Yes.
You should learn how to say what? I gotta go. Well, I believe this is the dilemma that many women go through in their homes, where sometimes in your efforts to help men maintain a sense of ego, a sense of masculinity, you attempt to support him and not degrade him. But many times men and children, they forget who actually cooking that bacon for them. They forget who's actually providing support for them and who's encouraging them and moving them along. They become task-oriented. Mom, I need to go to soccer practice. Mom, I need to go to football practice. Mom, I need to go to the store. I need to hem in my dress. I need to get this thing done, Mom. And none of the things that they need, they're paying for. They didn't ask you to put a drop of gas in your car. And they certainly can't give you back a second of your day. I can imagine sometimes, ladies, it can be frustrating. When everybody around you has tasks for you to do, but they're not considering your time, your talents, your vision, your goals. Task orientation also is leader focused, and the subordinate is often forgotten about and given a to-do list that becomes their burden and not their blessing. That's just what I was talking about. You get the to-do list, you're told what you need to do, or what needs to be done, and the goal is for you to get it done without any consideration of how you get it done. I think some of this needs to change. My prayer for the men who are here to begin to own the responsibility of caring for the woman in your life, considering the woman in your life, appreciating the woman in your life, and remembering that she has dreams and goals too. Then we got something called gender stereotypes. These stereotypes are shared views of personality traits often tied to one's gender, such as men provide the financial means of the family and women are more expressive. Well, that's not true. Lisa can tell you that's not true. Because just because you're a woman and feminine doesn't mean you always got a lot to say, right, Lisa? Sometimes it's better just to be present. Which is why we got to learn how to squash these stereotypes. We got to learn how to put these stereotypes down and not be so inundated with things just being one way. Traditional gender stereotypes, what's feminine? What's considered feminine in these stereotypes? I want to see how many of you all agree with this. Women are not aggressive. Not. Women are dependent. Not. Easily influenced.
Not.
Sometimes. Not. Submissive. Certainly not. Passive. Certainly not. Home-oriented. Sometimes. Easily hurt emotionally. Sometimes. Indecisive.
Sometimes.
Talkative.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
No.
Gentle.
Most of the time.
Okay.
Toward children.
I'm toward children. Bless you. Thank you for qualifying. Thank you. Thank you for qualifying. Whew. I got nervous, Dennis. I thought I was going to say something, but I didn't have to. Bless the Lord. They did it for me. Right? Sensitive to others' feelings. Most times. Not always. Y'all said not this.
Sometimes.
Very desirous of security. I believe that's true.
That's true.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Cries a lot.
No.
No, not always.
No.
Or you get into your private space and you let it out. Are women or feminine stereotypes of gender, are women emotional?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you verbal? Are women verbal?
Not until a year later, but yes.
Okay, but you don't forget though.
That's right.
Right? Are women kind? Are women kind?
Yes.
Okay, we can go with that for right now. Are women tactful?
Yes.
They are?
Depends on the situation.
Thank you, Lisa. Depends on the situation. Look at Kat. Depends on the situation, right? Are women nurturing?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say yes. Right? You know, that's my observation. Now, the stereotype of men, my brothers, are men aggressive? Not always. Sometimes, but not always. Right? Are men independent? Not always. You know, sometimes brothers like to be taken care of. Or they grow in the society to be taken care of. Who teaches them that
Mama.
somebody will take care of them? Mama does. Mama teaches them that somebody will take care of you, baby. And if they don't take care of you, I'm going to take care of you. And guess what? Then they pawn him off on some unknown woman. And he develops an expectation that she's going to take care of him. Not easily influenced. Are men not easily influenced? I think sometimes we're easily influenced. Are we dominant? We try to be. But it's kind of hard to be dominant when you ain't got nothing. In order to be dominant, you kind of got to have something. Most often, men attempt to dominate by their strength, their physical strength. But what we've learned a long time ago is that physical strength will never trump financial strength, emotional strength, moral strength. Those things are always far more significant than just physical strength. Because it doesn't make you a man because you're stronger than somebody physically. What makes you a man is your ability to hold back your physical strength, to show tenderness, to show concern, and to be present when somebody needs you. Are men active? Meaning, do they go a lot? Sometimes. Until they get to 50. When they get to 50, they just enjoy sitting in a chair and looking at CNN. Right? Are men worldly? Sometimes. Not easily hurt emotionally. That ain't true.
That ain't true.
Men get hurt faster than anybody will. Right? Are men decisive?
Sometimes.
Sometimes they are. As time goes on, men are becoming more indecisive. Because whereas at one point in time, men would make a decision and own that decision. Now they're so sensitive and interested in what other people think. When you become invested in what other people think, it's hard for you just to make a decision. Right? Not at all talkative. That ain't true. Men can talk. They just need to find a subject they want to talk about. That's all. Unfortunately, ladies, most times the subjects that you want to talk about when they get home isn't the stuff they want to talk about.
But they're more talkative to men versus females.
Because they don't talk.
They don't talk to females.
Right? Brothers, what's the worst word you can hear? We need to talk. Oh my God. The brother get home and he hear those words. It's not a good feeling inside. It's not a good feeling inside. Men are tough. That's a stereotype about men. Actually, that stereotype is lessening its value as time goes on also. But I find that this concept of men being tough, it has inundated the minds of many women. And many women who find a man who isn't tough or doesn't demonstrate a sense of toughness, she feels some kind of way about that man sometimes. She feels as though you can't protect me, you can't keep me safe. Why? Because you're not tough. I find that stereotype actually plays a part in relationships in a prevalent way. Less sensitive to other feelings. That's not always true. Not very desirous of security. That's not true. Men love security. Rarely cries. That's not true. Men cry. Logical. That's true.
That's not true.
That is true. That is very true. Analytical. That's not always true. Because being logical means I can go through a process. Being analytical means that I'll take time to create a process. And many men, they don't create processes. If they know a process, they'll follow it. But many times they don't analyze a situation to begin to learn to apply a process to it. Men are cruel. That's not true. Men are blunt. Some are at times, but many men are not blunt. They try to care for other people's feelings, so to speak. That's what they say. Not nurturing. That's not true either. I believe men can be nurturing, maybe not as nurturing in other ways, but men can be nurturing also. Right? Gender attitudes. Don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Gender attitudes are just the views of others or situations commonly associated with one's gender. And we ascribe those attitudes to individuals, right? The reason I put that picture up there regarding the words female and male, these words are all often used as attitudes that are associated to a person's gender, as well as whether or not men should wear boots and women should wear dress shoes. We ascribe a certain attitude when we see men wearing dress shoes or pumps. And we ascribe a different attitude when we see some women wearing boots. Although women wearing boots is more prevalent than men wearing pumps. I'll leave it at that. What roles do women encumber in relationships to the family? Most often, women take on the role of wife and or womb. Now, why did I call this woman, wife, womb? Why did I call this woman, wife, womb? I call this woman, wife, womb because what I grew to understand in my counseling practice as I began to talk to women, 90% of my clients are women. And as I talk to women over these more than 20 years, what I've grown to understand is that women either become somebody's wife or somebody's mother before they discover what woman they want to be. And what we do is I provide or attempt to provide a safe space for them to figure out what do they want to be as a woman. And then they bring their husbands in, and I try to help their husbands back up off of her, because most times when they come to see me, she's getting ready to leave, if she hasn't already left. And what I'm trying to do for him, because the truth is, he done ran the streets, he done got all that out of him. Now he comes home, and what does he want? He wants the wife that he first married. Well, the average marrying age in the United States is 25. Women are 25 years old most often on average when they get married. Ladies, how many of you all knew the woman you wanted to be when you were 25? Especially if by that time you had already been in a relationship with a boo for a couple of years, or you were somebody's mother. Because if you were somebody's mother, by the time you grew into the woman you wanted to be, then the identity you took on was what? Mother or womb. The role of a mother is totally different than the desires of a woman. And as a matter of fact, what women have to do is they have to deny themselves the reality of the woman that they want to be in order to be a mother. Because what women hear from their mothers is, you made your bed, you lay in it, that's your baby. So because that's your baby, it's time for you to be a mother. Well, mama, can you keep the baby? Well, it's time for me to be the woman I want to be. So therefore, I don't have time to keep your baby. So what happens to the woman, well, the woman who has the baby, who is now a womb? What happens to her?
She becomes a mother.
She becomes a mother. And she denies what it means, or Never gets an opportunity to even figure out what it means to be what? A woman. Right? What does the term I am woman mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? What do you think it means, Kay? I'm a woman. Yeah, that's what it means. I'm a woman. Well, glad you asked. A woman is distinctly feminine nature. A woman is a lady. And I put here when she wants to be. Right? But a woman does what? She figures out when being a lady is a part of the woman she wants to be. And sometimes it's classy day, and sometimes it's sassy day. Well, what does a woman have the ability to do? To choose, to make her own decision. Next thing, she is distinguished from a man. A woman is good and grown and can make her own decisions concerning how she wants to live out her femininity. Right? She is different from men in many different ways. Thank God for that. She's an adult female person. And as I said before, she is good and grown. A woman is, well, you see the book there, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. A woman is socially different than a man. A woman is physically different than a man. A woman is emotionally different than a man. Would you agree?
Yes.
A woman is cognitively different than a man. Does a woman think like a man? Despite the movie, act like a lady and think like a man, right? Despite the movie, women and men don't think the same, do they?
No.
Intuitively different. Does a woman listen to your logic or to a man's logic, or does she listen to her gut?
Gut.
She listens to her gut. Intuition speaks to her. As a matter of fact, intuition yells in her head, this doesn't make sense. Well, baby, here's the paper. This is how it reads. Boom, 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 boom. It's logical. I know what I read on the paper, but my gut is telling me that this doesn't fit with me. And it isn't an issue that it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't sit well with me. Can't tell you all how many discussions I've had with women and men about intuition, where I try to tell brothers, stop arguing with her about what you view as logic, as though your logic is going to sway her gut. She's been listening to her gut for 40 years. And you're trying to reach a space in her head thinking she's going to eventually get it. When in all honesty, all you're doing is frustrating yourself. Stop it. Stop trying to make sense of it in her head and start listening to her heart. Ask the question, what about this doesn't sit well with you? Ask her the question. If men can learn how to ask women that question, it will save them lots of headaches. And you won't have this contentious back and forth trying to argue about something where you both are on different planes. Yes, men and women are intuitively different. Right? We are also attentively different. What do I mean by that? Women pay attention to stuff men ain't even thought about. Women paying attention. Actually, the other day, Stephanie's not here yet, I can say it. The other day, I had got something, and I left something on the counter. It was a bag. I got something out of a bag. and I left the bag on the counter. And I went to sit down, and I was eating what I took out the bag, and she picked the bag up and brought it to me and said, can you throw this away when you finish with it? I said, okay. Now what went through my head? Either you could have threw it away, or when I get back in there, I'll take care of it. It ain't a problem. But it wasn't really no need for me to even broach that discussion, because she paid attention to the bag. And her attention was on the bag, and it wasn't going to be off the bag until the bag was dealt with. But it really wasn't about the bag. What was it really about?
You cleaning up after yourself.
Me cleaning up after myself, not giving her the impression that I expect her to clean up after me. That's what it really was about. See, I'm smart. I listen to y'all. Right? Now, I'm a dude, so I'm going to still do dude stuff. Right? But women are attentively different than men, aren't they? But not only attentively different, lifestyles, totally different. Right? Y'all go to the mall, it's a lifestyle event. Y'all run errands, it's a lifestyle event. Y'all go to Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus, or y'all go to, what's that thing y'all were talking about going? Ice-capades, and it's an experience, right? Guess what? I'll buy the ticket. Bless your heart. Don't need to go. I'm good. I want to sit at home and look at CNN. I'm good. We're different from what's important from our lifestyles, right? You all start planning at a very early age. When you all get 25, many times, it's amazing to me. Dennis, when I was in college, a man and a woman comes to college at 18. The man is having fun, partying, doing his thing. The 18-year-old young lady, she's doing the same thing. But what you don't know is, she's studying when she gets home from the party. You drunk. So you can't study when you get home from the party. Now you're the cool dude your freshman year and your sophomore year. And she likes the cool dude the freshman year and the sophomore year. But when she becomes a junior, the dude that didn't go to the party the freshman and sophomore year, most often, Dennis, that person is getting all A's. That person is getting co-ops. And by the time that person gets to the junior year, that person can afford to buy a car. And that person has a job offer when they graduate next year. And that person now has a life that looks promising. And that same young lady who was all into the party with you when you were cool realizes it's going to take you an extra year and a half to graduate because you were cool your first 2 years. But this joker that didn't go to the party freshman and sophomore year, he got a plan. So guess what she begins to do? She begins to look at this dude differently. You're like, hold up. You going out with him? But I'm cool. Well, you might be cool, but he went to school. You don't know if you're going to get your degree. So you cool and all that. But my lifestyle is moving in another direction. Does that make sense? So now, she done got new because what? She got a plan. Her plan is she want to marry the CEO. She don't want to marry the dude that's pushing the broomstick. Right? She want to marry the owner. She doesn't want to marry the representative. She's got a plan. Women's lifestyle is totally different than men. Right? So what does this mean, Dennis? It means women are special. Y'all see the first letter? What's the first letter spelled? S-P-E-C-I-A-L. Women are special. You think in special ways. You act in special ways. You feel in special ways. We've got to learn how not to fight who you are and just acknowledge you as being what? Special. I ain't talking about yellow bus special. I'm talking about the fact that you are important and significant people in the framework of our lives. Look, this is how we see things. Women, they see every color in the spectrum. Men, they see red, violet, pink, orange, yellow, green, blue. Roy G. Biv. That's what men see. What do women see? Y'all see scarlet. Y'all see dark red, wine red, plum, eggplant. I never knew eggplant was a color, right? Y'all see grape, purple, lavender, carnation. All those are purples. Or they're reds, I'm sorry. All those are reds. Huh?
Reds and purples.
Reds and purples. All I know is it's either red, if you put some blue in it, it turns purple. That's what I know. I looked at some of these things. Strawberry. It's a fruit. It's not a color. Carnation. It's a flower. It's not a color. Salmon. It's a fish. It's not a color. I don't even know what fuchsia is. Fresh grass. Fresh grass is a color? That's a smell. Fresh cut grass, it's a smell. No, they say it's a type of green. I don't know. Sea green. What's sea green, man? I don't get it. Now, I have heard of turquoise before. I know that's a color. Right? It's a jewel too, right? Like a stone too. We are different. We are different. What does the term "I am wife" mean? A female partner in a marriage. A married woman considered in relation to her spouse. A woman acting in a specified life capacity. I really like this. A man's partner in marriage. I tell you what, even Webster's dictionary is sexist. Even Webster's dictionary defines a woman in terms of her man. Y'all can't catch a break, can you? What does the term "I am womb" mean? I am womb. What does that mean? A womb is another term for a mother or a female partner. A source or origin is another term for womb. Maternal tenderness is another term for womb. I know every lady in here has that type of love and affection for the baby, right? For the baby. Until the baby becomes big, and then that baby is a nuisance. Baby doesn't care about me anymore. A baby loves you without limits. When they grow up, all they care about is themselves. They become people, and you become their slave. Do they all mean the same thing? Do they all mean the same thing? No, they don't. They don't mean the same thing. They don't mean the same thing because a woman refers to who she is, not her role, It's more factored into her identity and who she chooses to be. A wife refers to the role of a female partner in a continuing marital relationship. The traditional relational role with her husband. A womb or a mother is a term that identifies what? A woman with a traditional relational role with her children. Get it? As a wife, your role is associated with him. Your husband, your boo thing. As a mother or womb, your identity is what? Based upon the children. When do we get to you? I'm glad you asked. What roles are most comfortable playing for you? Is it more comfortable for you playing the role of wife or mother? Mother? Well, I've had some women say they're looking forward to playing the role of widow. So, if they're playing the role of widow, what does that mean?
Dude gone.
That means that joker gone. And because he's gone, they is so happy. Sometimes I know when the husband who passes away has left his wife very well off. If he ain't left her with nothing, she over the coffin just yelling and screaming, "Why you leave me? Why you go?" But if he left her with a decent insurance policy, she says, "I see you when I get there. Thank you for being a good husband. I'll miss you. Bye." As Lisa would say, deuces. Right? Some women look forward to playing the role of widow. Right? But what we're going to do is we're going to begin to look at what you feel is important for the role you want to play. Do you play that role out of want? Whatever that role is that you feel more comfortable. You said mother. Mother? Do you play that role out based upon want, need, or necessity? Want is you have a desire to do it. Need is if you don't do it, it ain't going to get done. Necessity is it must be done for their benefit.
A little bit of that.
Necessity?
Yeah. I think a little bit of each one of those.
Right. So you want to serve as mother.
Yeah.
So what does serving as mother do for you?
It's like a warm feeling or being needed, actually.
Okay. So that is something that fulfills you, being needed. How about you, Kay? You don't need to be needed? Because I've heard that on many occasions. Many women don't feel complete unless they're needed. I done ran into so many women who get older, never had children, never been married, and they in everybody's business. And you know why they're in everybody's business? Because they don't have no business of their own. They don't have anybody who needs them. So because nobody needs them, they don't feel wanted. Which then creates this sense of insecurity, isolation, and aloneness. Because truthfully, they are not connected to anyone. It's important for women to feel connected. Expectations versus reality. When men get a motorcycle, their expectation is the women are coming. The reality is, when men get a motorcycle, Men say, that's a nice motorcycle. Because the women ain't paying no attention to your motorcycle. The men are. Expectation versus reality. What other girls look like with a messy bun? Right? Messy bun must be a hairstyle.
There it is.
Right? What I look like with a messy bun. That's reality. Right? Expectation versus reality. That's who you marry. I'm sorry. That's who you dreamed of marrying. That's who you really marry. And you dream of who you really marry as being what your dream was. You know, lots of women do that. The woman's imagination is amazing. Sometimes they get to talking and I just sit there, and then it's what I want to do is say, oh my Jesus, did I just hear what she said? But I sit there stoically and I listen and act like it didn't faze me, but it did. Because women's imaginations are amazing, right? Many women feel that society's expectations of her are often unreasonable and create a false reality that cannot be obtained. Have you ever felt, ladies, that society has placed too much on you? And the impressions of society has placed too much on you? Or your family has placed too much on you? The reason why I ask that question is because I talk to many women who say that gender roles and gender identity come from societal norms. And those norms say women do this and men do that. And sometimes what women have to do is deny their natural bent toward wanting to. Right now my mind goes to the movie Lean On Me, where there was a little girl who they kept putting her in home ec. And she kept saying, she went to Mr. Clark and said, Mr. Clark, I don't want to take home ec. I got 7 brothers and sisters that I got to cook for every day. Why do I need home ec? Mr. Clark says, writes out a note, take this to the shop teacher. I'm putting you in shop. Because people who work on cars can make $20 an hour. That's a living wage. The little girl was overjoyed. Why? Because Mr. Clark didn't put society's norms on her. The expectation was, you can be, baby girl, you can be anything you want to be. And my prayer is that we can learn to do that for the women in our lives. She's supposed to be everything. She's supposed to be the financier. She's supposed to be our personal masseuse. She's supposed to be the keeper of the generations. She's supposed to be the mama to everybody. She's supposed to be our comforter and our guide. She's supposed to be our friend. That's who you're supposed to be to us. Supposed to be our lover. Oh yeah, you're supposed to be our lover. He's supposed to be our counselor. You're supposed to do the homework. You're supposed to go to work and look like that when you after you come home from work with a jug of beer in the other hand. That's what you're supposed to be to us. That's the expectation we have. That you can be all things. You're supposed to be Wonder Woman. In whatever form of Wonder Woman you want to be, Sister Girl Wonder Woman. That's what you're supposed to be. Right? But although she's wonderful, she's really not Wonder Woman. And we've got to learn to realize that. You're really not Wonder Woman. And it's okay for you not to be Wonder Woman. So if we can talk real, ladies, if you could speak to your family about your feelings and emotions, what would you tell them? And how would you tell them? I think the good question also is, do you tell them? Do you tell your families what you really feel?
Sometimes.
Okay, do you tell your families what you really feel?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Does it come out productively?
Never. No, sometimes it comes out angrily.
Sometimes it comes out angrily, right? Well, why do you think it comes out angrily?
Because you wait till you hold everything in.
Oh, so you get angry because of what you choose to do.
Exactly.
And then when they don't listen, you don't take responsibility because you taught them how to treat you.
Exactly. Hey, that's it. That's it.
So you get mad at them
That's it.
because you've never required that they consider you.
That's right. That's true.
You've always played the role thinking that somebody's supposed to take care of you and consider you. Why? Because you're so considerate to everybody else. You're so thoughtful to everybody else. But what happens, ladies, when the people in your life that you take care of look at you, and much like we talked about last Sunday, say to you, I never asked you to do it for me in the first place. Whew, gotcha. Pause. Oh. You pause then, don't you? Yeah. We've got to learn, and I'm talking to the men, we've got to learn how to create an environment where you feel comfortable and safe saying what you feel. And that's what we've got to do, right? I'm going to hurry on because I want to do a couple of assignments and we only got a short period of time. How can we begin the process of unearthing the thoughts and fears and sacrifices and pains experienced by our wonderful women? Well, what we want to do is we want to learn how to discover or allow us to access your past pains, your present perspective, and your purposeful passions. All right? So we're going to do a little exercise real quick. On your chair is something called Alexis's Wall. Now, when I initially did this with one of my clients, I began to ask her to begin to tell me some of the painful experiences she had in her life. And as she began to discuss with me the painful experiences she had, I drew a wall. I drew just some blocks. And it became a wall. Now, if you all look at that page, Alexis's Wall, what I would like for you all to do is I'd like for you all to quickly begin to outline some of the experiences on the first line. Some of the experiences and relationships you've had that cause you pain. We're going to take 5 minutes and do that, okay? You got a pen? All right. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and I want you all to look at each block and outline either on the first line of each block, outline either the person or the experience that has caused you pain. All right? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that. Now, it's 16 blocks. You may not have 16 people or 16 experiences to write down, but you'll be able to take it home, and if you choose to, you can finish filling it out. But if you can get maybe 3 or 4, I think that'll be helpful. Now, after you fill out the first line, then what I'd like for you to do is look at the second line. And on the second line, do you all see what I asked you to do? I'm sorry?
Insert a feeling that you remember.
So I want you to name the pain that you experienced on the second line, from either the person or the experience. Then the third line, I want you to give an approximate date. Doesn't have to be the exact date. You can put 10 years ago. You can put 8 years ago. You can put approximately when I was 4 years old. That's what Kendall always says. Daddy, when I was 4, you whooped me. Daddy, when I was 4, you fell off the ladder. That was a pitiful. There's a whole lot of stuff happened to Kendall when she was 4. Right? So, after you have done that, I'd like for you all to answer the questions that's in the table. The first question says what?
Which experience affected you?
What's the first line say?
Which experience affected you the deepest?
The date, person,
Oh,
and experience
of
of your most recent pain.
Recent pain.
And fill that out.
Okay.
Date, person, and experience of your most distant pain. And if you can fill that out, I greatly appreciate that. All the way to the bottom. Now, what would be good to do is, after you fill that out, sit with your significant other, sit with your family, and discuss these things with your family so you don't have to hold it in. And you can develop a mechanism to communicate your past pains. Now, I realize that some of the past pains that you have could be associated with somebody in your family right now. But truthfully, the exercise works best when you don't associate with someone in your family, but you speak to them concerning things that took place that was outside the family. And there's a reason I say that. The reason I say that is because what you want your family to learn to do is hear your heart without feeling like you are accusing them. Because if you come off as accusing them, then they most often will shut down and won't hear you. Does that make sense? Because the goal is that you are heard. Now, I'm going to finish telling you all about what this is. Now, if you turn that paper on the back, what do you see on the back? Right, first you see a little girl. Right? But yes, you're right, Kate. You see tools on the back. Right? Does everybody got a paper with tools on the back? And with the little girl? Now, when I did this exercise with Alexis, what Alexis didn't know was, as we were filling out the blocks, on the back of the paper, I put a little stick figure of a little girl. And what I told Alexis was that this was representative and symbolic of her. And these things on the wall were things that were preventing her from living out her true truth. They were blocking her from experiencing the relationships and the experiences that she wanted to have in her life. And what we began to do was look at all of those events and those people, draw connections to them. If you look on the left side, what you see is a question that says, do you see how any of these blocks connect with the other? Because as you begin to deal with issues in one block. If it connects to another block, you can get 2 for 1. Because maybe the problems that you're having in one block, or this negative emotions that you experience in one block, maybe it carried over to another experience in your life. It's important that we learn how to draw connections to events in our lives that cause us pain. If we're able to do that, then we may be able to find the root source of the pain and then deal with it effectively. Now, you see all those tools on the back. Now, Alexis is a little girl and she's crying. She's crying because she's sad. She's crying because she's weak. She's crying because she doesn't have the ability to knock down that wall. And the reality is, some of those tools are too big for her. Although they may be effective in knocking down the wall, it's not effective if she doesn't have the emotional capacity to pick up the tool to knock down the wall. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is where the family comes in. Because although Alexis can't pick up that big sledgehammer, because that big sledgehammer will probably be the most effective thing, the most effective tool to help her knock that wall down. Right? But she can't pick that sledgehammer up. But what happens if the family all grab the sledgehammer together? And she opens herself up to become vulnerable so that she can allow her family to know that she doesn't have the strength to knock down this wall. She may only have the strength to pick up a screwdriver. She may only have the dexterity to get pliers. But the family will accept her and sit with her despite whether or not she grabs the right tool, because they got her back. And they'll support her. But the only thing that Alexis has to do is acknowledge what her weakness is. Ladies, what if the reason you can't overcome your pains is because you can't acknowledge your weaknesses, and your weaknesses then keep you in pain? You won't ask for help. Because to be or need help may mean you have to be vulnerable. Ladies, you all do a real good job of being vulnerable, don't you? Mm-hmm. You all do a very good job opening up and allowing yourself to be exposed. You do a good job not hiding behind the camouflage that you use. Right? You do a real good job of that. You do a really good job at exposing yourself so that you have the privileged opportunity of being accepted for who you are. I don't believe you can have true relationship until you feel accepted. But it's hard for somebody to accept you when you don't accept yourself. And many times, women shy away from being accepted because you're so doggone hard on yourselves. You don't like the way you look. You don't like the way you talk. You don't like the way you walk. You don't like the body God gave you. You don't like your skin color. You don't like your eyes. You don't like your hair. You don't like you. But you want others to validate the you that you don't like. I think the goal is that we learn, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you know that, and you walk in the boldness and truth of that, then truth is, it don't matter what other folks think about you. What matters is that you know who you are. And you know who you are based upon whose you are. Do me a favor, go to the next page. I'm going to talk to you about what it means to develop perspective, a present perspective. Now, I talk to the church all the time about this concept of been, being, and becoming. Been, being, and becoming. Well, what this says is under been, it asks a question. Been, or it makes a statement. Been is your past. Whatever I've been, I can never be again. But some of us make that our perspective and we live in our past. Let's go over to becoming. Becoming is the expected future. But whatever I want to be, I can never become until I occupy that space and time. We're trying to live out a space and time that we haven't gotten to yet. And most times we're doing that to avoid dealing with being. Being is your here and now. I can only be who or what I choose to be in the time and space I'm blessed to occupy. If I'm in the time and space, then I can be. But if I've never reached the time and space, I haven't become. And if I pass that time and space, I'll never be that again. What I'd like for you all to do is, on the form, I'd like for you all to look and write down some of the things that you wanted to be, right? So that's been, or who you thought you were. Under being, or under becoming, write down those things that you are looking forward to becoming. Remember, the things that you're looking forward to becoming, most often, they occupy space so that you can avoid dealing with being. Many times, we focus on becoming, just not to deal with right now. So it becomes an avoidance. It becomes a mechanism of deflection. I don't have to deal with the right now because I'm focused on what I'm going to be. That's becoming. So what I'm doing, I'm covering up what I am. I'm masking what I am, just focused either on what I want to become. So I'm preparing. I'm doing a whole lot of stuff about becoming, but I ain't dealing with my stuff right now. Or I'm focused a lot on what I used to be, so that I don't have to deal with what I am. When the reality is, we need to learn how to put been and becoming in their proper place. The experiences that you had in your past, you can learn from them, but you can never go back to them. The experiences that you want to go into in your future, you can plan for them, you can even prepare for them, but they don't take you away from the now. I'd like for you all to look at your lives and begin to assess those things that distract you from walking in the truth of today. I want you all to begin to look at life from the perspective of it's an honor to live in today. It's a blessing to have reached today. Because so many people who had plans of getting to today never made it. As a matter of fact, some of them died yesterday thinking about today. My prayer is that you never become so inundated with tomorrow that you don't experience today. Let's not rush our life away at becoming something when we have no promise that we're ever going to get there. All right, we're going to move on. And the last thing her purposeful passions, her world, her works, and her wants and needs. You all don't have a sheet on that, but I want you all to begin to think about how do you begin to move into your purpose. I put that last because you can't move into your purpose and passion until you start dealing with your past pains and start to develop a proper perspective on the timing of your life. So as you begin to look for your purposeful passions, I want you all to begin to think about what is it that you want in your world? What works do you want to accomplish? And what are your wants and needs that have to be taken care of in order to get there? Here, I put down an outline of what women have told me. Women have told me that they want their world to look like a world of service, that she wants to serve her community, and she wants to serve her family. Under works, she wants social engagement. She wants to have friends and family and outings and things of that nature. She wants to be involved in the life of other people. Most people do. Some people don't, but most people do. Satisfying societal needs. She wants to be able to put her life into something that'll matter and it will solve a problem in society. And she wants situational responsibility. And what does that mean? That means she won't be responsible for everything and everybody, but in the right circumstances, situations, she wants to be able to own that thing that she's responsible for. Under wants, though, that's where the list is the longest. She wants spiritual development. She wants sensuality and sexuality. She wants to be seen as a sensual person and a sexual person. Right? Most children have problems seeing their mother as a sexual person. But we got to ask the children, how you get here? Right? She wants a sense of financial freedom. Every person who is developing into a woman that I talk to, they want to make sure their coin is straight. They want to make sure them bills is paid so that they can freely travel and freely live a life without fear and without being insecure. She wants a sense of self-satisfaction. She wants to be satisfied by the things that she does in her life and for herself. Self-respect and self-management. She wants to be able to manage her emotions and manage her life in a way that makes sense, or better yet, that feels right to her gut. Boom. Right? And she wants to engage in self-care and healthy living. She wants to do all these things. Now that list is long for what she wants. But ladies, how often do you get to tackle that list? It takes time to tackle that list when your identity is based upon being what? Somebody's mother or somebody's wife. The goal is to help you realize that you can shift your focus more toward yourself and begin to carve and craft out the identity that you choose without feeling the stress and the strain of society and your family. The goal is that you become the person you want to be. And by becoming that person, then you improve the family. You don't take away from the family. You improve the family. What does the woman in your dream, what does the woman in your dream that you dream of being? Who is that woman? Oh, what it should say, what is the woman in you dream of being? One thing. What you dream of being?
I dream of being
Social worker. Lisa, what do you dream of being?
Well, I've always been an artist.
An artist. Steph, what you dream of being? Philanthropist? Is that what you said? Philanthropist? Very good. Katie, what you dream of being?
Alive.
Dennis, what you dream of being?
Healer.
A healer. No man. A healer. No man. I think we all can reach our dreams, actually. We just got to figure out what that unique gift in us is and allow ourselves to be freed up to live out the truth of that gift. So then it's not a dream anymore. It was just the fulfillment of a plan. And I believe as long as we choose to give God the glory in that which we dream of being, I believe He'll bless us. And He'll bless it, that thing that we put our mind to. So Dennis says he wants to be a healer. Well, Dennis may not be a healer where he put his hand on somebody and they get up from the dead. But Dennis may become a healer in that he can develop a practice that allows an individual to live a healthy life. Because healing can take place not just in your physical health. Healing can take place in your mental health. It can take place in your emotional health. It can take place in your financial health, right? Kay says she wants to be a social worker. I think it's interesting that Kay actually said a role. She didn't give, you said you'd be an artist, right? That's a being. I guess a social worker can be a being, right? Not just a job, right? Someone who provides social encouragement and who works social stuff, right? No. But think about it. Think about it. The only one here who didn't really know what they wanted to be or what they dream about is the one who's the youngest. Now, why is that? Because he got time to think about all the things. Most of us have had time. We've worked places we ain't want to work. We've had to do jobs we ain't want to do. We've had to engage in things that we did not want to engage in. So guess what we've had a lot of time to do? To think. Let's do me a favor. Let's not waste another iota of time. Another morsel of time. Not engaging in becoming the person that you want to be. Amen? Any questions? Any thoughts? Well, I thank you all for coming, and I pray that this was a start in the development of you becoming the woman that you want to be. And more importantly, help your families support you as you become the woman you want to be. Amen? Let's pray. Gracious God, we love you. We thank you, God, for tonight. And I pray, God, that someone was blessed by this engagement together. Keep us and strengthen us until we meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Next month, February, we will be having our February Healthy Living series, and we will be talking about marriage neutrality and how to develop a cooperative relationship in marriage. So looking forward for you all being here, and I thank you for being here tonight. Amen? Amen. Amen.